And now I come to the end of the Silmarillion, of the Rings of Power in the Third Age. Um, so, as you remember, Morgoth was overthrown, and many of the elves go to Valinor, to the island of Tol Eressëa. The Edain become the Númenóreans. And then, Sauron builds a stronghold in Mordor, and he deceives the elven smiths of Eregion into forging rings of power so he can subdue elves, men, and dwarves, and all the free peoples of Middle-earth to his will. And he started out with a good purpose, as most tyrants do. They have good ideas sometimes, and they start with a good idea, or, they legitimately want to help their people, but then it's just the way they handle it, because, it's hard to get people to really agree and to come together and make things better. And so a tyrant will force people into doing what they want. And this is effectively what Sauron is doing. And then he forges, the One Ring in secret to rule all the others. And then he goes and destroys Númenor. But Elendil and his sons, Isildur and Anarion, return to Middle-earth. And they build Gondor in the south, Arnor in the north. Sauron, of course, returns out of the destruction of Númenor and attacks them. And so the last alliance of elves and men is formed. It even says in here that even the dwarves took part, but only the dwarves of Durin's line in Moria. And the elves and the elven smiths and the dwarves of Moria befriended each other. And so, the dwarves and elves are friends for a brief time, but of course, that in the Third Age deteriorates. But Sauron is defeated by Isildur, and he and the Ringwraiths go into the shadows and hiding. And then eventually though, he returns as the Necromancer, and has a stronghold in the Forest of Mirkwood. And this section ends with talking briefly an overview of what happens in the Lord of the Rings. And it says, and I'm going to read the ending here. In the twilight of autumn, well, I'm going to have to back up a little bit. So, the elves take ship at the end. The ring bearers go with them. And it says, in the twilight of autumn, it sailed out of Mithlond, the ship that's going to bear them away, until the seas of the bent world fell away beneath it, and the winds of the round sky troubled it no more. And borne upon the high airs above the mists of the world, it passed into the ancient west, and an end was come for the Eldar of story and of song. But then, of course, you have the elves that remain in Middle-earth eventually fade and basically become like the fairies and elves that we see in mythology and Norse, Celtic, and all of that stuff. That's ends up what happening to the elves. Originally, in the Book of Lost Tales, Tolkien's idea was that they would become those little, transparent, little tiny things with butterfly wings that you see in like Disney movies and stuff. And he always hated that. But why he did that in the Book of Lost Tales, though, but that, of course, that changed, and they became more like the elves of Norse mythology. They look like us, but they're more beautiful. They're supernatural. And so that's basically how the Silmarillion ends, just talking about what happens in the Second and Third Ages with all of that. And we build up towards the Lord of the Rings. And that is the end. So, up next, I will be doing The Hobbit, and of course, Lord of the Rings. I didn't really want to go into too many details until we get there, because I want to really go through the Lord of the Rings, and there's a book that I have shown on here before that will help. The Hobbit, might just do a few videos on that. I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do all that, but I will decide at some point when I get there, I guess. Yeah, that's all I can think of for that. I'm sure more will come to me while I'm, reading Lord of the Rings, especially. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed this series of videos on the Silmarillion. Hope you will enjoy The Hobbit coming up. I will probably start that in about a week. There's some other videos I want to get back into doing because I still got some more of those movies I wanted to watch. So, I'll probably do that next week and do some other personal life stuff. Though I really, I say I do those things. I want to go do something and then I don't go do it, but I think I need to though. Anyway, that is all for now. I'll talk to you all later.